Hello, it's me again. And we're going to do a review of Barbados. Before I begin, one of the things that I want to make notice, because you will see the approach towards Barbados is a little different. Barbados suffers from an overall limitation in statistics, as in public information is not as public in Barbados as compared to Jamaica. This means that the economy may be a little bit more difficult to assess from Trinidad and Tobago from a foreign stance as opposed to being in the market. So this is something you should consider when looking at some of the information that I was able to get on Barbados, being in Trinidad and Tobago. It will make you think about maybe considering, if you're interested in the market, taking a trip and discovering what the market has to offer yourself. So let's carry on where it has the same format as the presentation with Jamaica, a review of the economy, business, and trade. The population of Barbados is much smaller than Jamaica, but it's actually still one of the larger populations in the Caribbean. So we make a jump with Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and we actually have Belize and then Barbados as some of the most populous countries in the English-speaking Caribbean. Their GDP growth has been less than 1% for some time now. They actually experienced negative growth in 2009, but they have sustained it for the most part at less than 1%. This means on average the economy is not growing as favorably as one would like. Another thing to pay attention to is the main economic sectors and sources of foreign exchange. More so than Jamaica, Barbados is even more dependent on international disposable income. Tourism, international business, and FDIs. All three dependent on how much a country has left over from their everyday expenditure, how much a person has, and how much businessmen have. This means that in the event that the economy is not doing well, as it was in 2009 and 2008, Barbados stands to suffer more significantly than a Caribbean country that has industrial and more manufacturing capabilities. Another brief policy update on Barbados. Much like Jamaica, Barbados is going through some economic hardship, as you would have heard on your local radios and on the news. This is all part of the 19-month recovery program, which is meant to take Barbados out of a slump, as the Minister of Finance would describe it, their low growth and their high debt. Part of the program, as you may all know, be aware of, is the ending of university funding for any persons wishing to attend the University of the West Indies in Cave Hill. Prior to that, any Barbadians wishing to attend UWI Cave Hill also had the opportunity for free education. This has not been suspended for education in CARICOM. There was a retrenchment recently of 3,000 public workers. And more recently, about 2 weeks ago, they ended the transportation subsidy. If any of you may have been in Barbados, transportation for anywhere around the island was $2 billion because any of the cost for fuel and those other factors was covered by the government. They have since taken away that subsidy, which means that the consumer more than likely will have to pay the real and actual cost of moving from one place to the next. To offset some of these trends in the economy, Barbados is going on an expansive structural investment program. As many of you may have heard, which I did not list here, Barbados is going to be the first country to host the Top Gear International Festival. That required there to be some facility changes to the Bushy Park to make it more suitable for the types of crowds they hope to expect. They are also going into the Sandal Beaches. They acquired the Almond Resort. They are hoping to build a new cruise terminal, a waste-to-energy facility. They are hoping to start the building of 750 lower to middle-class houses, and they're also starting a road rehabilitation program. For many of you who may be interested in Barbados, this may mean a period of expansion in both the economy and in persons' disposable income, because it seems from this that there may be more employment opportunities. So persons may have more money to spend. I think some of these things are things that if you're interested in the Barbadian market, you should continue to follow to see how it will affect the average Barbadian, because it will trickle down to persons being able to afford your goods and services. Business. Just to get a little look at the tax structure, which I think is very important. The tax structure in Barbados is a little bit more intricate than that of Trinidad and Tobago. The corporate tax is 25%, which is the same as Trinidad and Tobago, but they have a special fixed tax rate for small businesses and manufacturing companies. I know that we have certain tax breaks for small businesses in terms of health surcharge and those things, but I'm not aware that we actually have a fixed tax rate for persons in a small business. In terms of import duties, VAT is 17.5%, which is much higher than Trinidad and Tobago's 15%. They also have a special rate for hotels, inns, and guest houses at 8.75%. And these are just other important things to note in terms of the business sector in Barbados. One of the things I do want persons to notice is the special rate that they give to the tourism sector, which is also trying to make them a little bit more price competitive in their tourism industry. The ease of doing business in Barbados is not much better than Jamaica. There are certain indicators such as trade, which they perform significantly better than Jamaica. This stands to show that trading to Barbados is a lot easier than it may be to most Caribbean islands. The regional average is 79, and Barbados is at 30 and 31, 2014 and 2013 respectively. That means that Barbados is a relatively open market. I think it's something that they need to do because they are a tourism economy, and if you remember, they're also in the art of international business. Part of being in the international business sector is creating an as open economy as possible. So this openness is something that I think Trinidad and Tobago's exporters can capitalize on when looking into the Bajan market. In terms of documents to import, reflecting the statistic that I showed in terms of the ease of doing business, but Jamaica was 22 days to import. Barbados, it's only 3 days of import procedures, which means that it is 19 days easier to import in Barbados, which I think is a significant difference from that of Jamaica. The documents required to import is the same as Jamaica, obviously because we're in the CARICOM, the Free Common Market. And this index is much like the Consumer Price Index. One of the things I forgot to mention is that the Consumer Price Index and the Retail Price Index shows inflation. And inflation sometimes pushes the price up much more than it is valued because of certain forces within an economy. As you can see, Barbados has been in a slight upward trend, and it really took off in July 2013, and it has been stabilizing in January. One of the things that is important to note is the high point periods. Their economy works very closely with the tourism industry. October, November, and December are high periods for tourism. By December, it would have fallen off. They have a concept called snowbirds, which is where anyone who is from the northern region who may have winter, they try to market themselves to attract winter persons to the Caribbean as a destination. So you would see that looking at the peaks for tourism, you will see a change in terms of the retail prices because there will be more consumer spending, not necessarily Barbadians, but mostly foreign persons. On average, this trajectory shows that prices are kind of up and downish in Barbados. It's something you have to monitor. As you can see in January, one day it was down, and by the next year, it was about 2 points higher, which means prices would have increased by about 1% or so. So that's important for you to note in terms of becoming price competitive. You have to understand that for an economy that is heavily reliant on tourism, that some of the forces that will affect their economy are not necessarily native to Trinidad and Tobago. So it's something that you will have to pay very close attention to if you want to be competitive in the Barbadian market. To close off this is my last presentation. We're looking at trade with Barbados. Much like Jamaica, with the exception of soaps being the third highest export, soaps, lubricants, waxes, candles. I know we have some persons from the candle sector and persons from the soap industry here today. That is actually one of the top 5 imports from Trinidad and Tobago. The beverages, spirits, and vinegar sector, unlike Jamaica and most of the world, when in 2011 and 12 it was downward spiraling, in 2012 you actually see that the beverages, spirits, and vinegar sector continued on its upward trajectory, whereas the other sectors seem to have been affected by the economy. This trend in 2013, because data for this period was available, has been more upward. Hopefully it will continue to go up, and it's something that I think persons should take a look at. We have our export market research department that can provide services to keep up to date with these trade data and so forth to understand what is taking place in the economy. So I would invite everyone to take advantage of the services that we offer in Export TT to keep up with some of these changes in the economy that might affect your potential in these markets. Finally, SEW data. This is the same table that we would have had for Jamaica. The only difference is, obviously, is that we're looking at Barbados, which is the third actually, which is the third largest, the third destination for Trinidad and Tobago's exports. So it's Jamaica, Guyana, and then Barbados. As you can see, the disparity between Jamaica and Barbados is much different. That may be because of the population size, but it's very interesting to note that despite all of the economic hardships that are going through in Jamaica, there's still a significant place for Trinidad and Tobago's products in the market. So I think that's something that persons should take note of despite all of the unfortunate trends that may be happening in the economy. Much like the Jamaica, I put a table just to show some of the main distributors for Trinidad and Tobago's products based on SEW data. It also ranges from a wide array of products, from industrial products all the way to food and beverage. These slides will be available online with the other presentations, so if this is something you're interested in, as well as the SEW data, please feel free to contact me or any of our representatives from the Export Market Research Department. Thank you, and I look forward to speaking with you, most of you, hopefully, at the end of today's session.